Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Manette Michelle Davis Jackson, nicknamed Mickey, and today's topic we're getting into is Abraham's wives versus Noah's sons. Different people, but the same scenario. And we're taking this back to the beginning because we are back at the beginning of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the last phase of it. Again, as I mentioned before, mighty God Ahaya, I am that I am, who is Idris Elba in this dimension. He has come back for Judah and Israel, the promised seed, to retrieve us out of that nasty tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We're way down at the bottom, at the root of it, and mighty God Ahaya is extracting these evil and wicked people out of the earth. So we're going to get in the view. Let's set this theme as a Cinderella and Cinderfella theme. Abraham, let's say Abraham will be the Cinderfella theme and Noah's sons the Cinderella theme. And we're going to do this because, again, many of you don't know that Abraham had 3 wives, who was Sarah, Hagar, and the last one was Keturah, that is listed in the book of Asher. And many of our people or children, they only go by the Bible or any Bible that was mistranslated for their understanding. But mighty God Ahaya made the pen of the scribes, those who wrote the Bible, in vain, because Lucifer, Satan, had changed many of mighty God Ahaya's word according to the book of Enoch 104, 9 through 12. So let's get into this Cinderella and Cinderfella theme. Again, we're back at the beginning, and we're talking again about the 4 primary colors: red, yellow, blue, and black, and how the earth was divided between Noah's boys after the flood. And it's like history is repeating. Whatever happened to Noah and his boys happened to Abraham, and then to Isaac and Jacob, and so forth and so knock all the way back to where we are today. And many people or Christians that still worship white Jesus on Sunday or televised because of the coronavirus, who they renamed to COVID-19, they're changing stuff to try to block out mighty God Ahaya from knowing and seeing who evil is. But mighty God Ahaya knows all, sees all, and is all, and in all. Again, we're all inside of his body, and many of his body parts are out of order. Like I mentioned before, Japheth's descendants were given 5 islands up north where it's cold, and they have migrated all over the world. Again, their spiritual energy is red hot. Mighty God Ahaya mentions Japheth's descendants as red bull or red in the Bible. And again, they have enlarged themselves and have migrated all over the world, creating global warming and other things. And like I mentioned before, many of us are inside of his body. Some are the knees, and the knees are trying to be the arm. Some are the mouth or the speaker and trying to be the ears. You have the eyes trying to be an elbow. You have the stomach trying to be a knee. And that's what I mean by we are still in his body, but many of the children inside his body are out of order. And if you cannot align yourself in order, he is plucking you out. And those that descended on Mount Hermon, the 600,000, those fallen angels that led the children of Israel astray, they are being judged, and they will be in the lake of fire forever, the second coming, second Exodus forever. So let's get into the theme, the Cinderella, the Cinderfella story with Abraham wives versus Noah's sons. Again, same scenario, but different people in reverse. Let's view this again as Cinderella and or Cinderfella theme. The 2 wicked stepchildren that stole the inheritance of the righteous child after their father had died. You know the Cinderella story. So let's get into it with the Noah's boys first, because I have been repeating this over and over about Noah, because again, many Bible thumpers try to confuse many of the children with a lot of in-between stuff, but all the way back at the beginning, after the flood, the earth was divided between those 3 boys. And what you see today on the earth is from those 3 boys. So now we're back at the beginning and helping you understand that 2 of those boys, Japheth and Ham, who cursed themselves by not keeping the oath that they placed before mighty God Ahaya, I am that I am, and the son who was Noah, who was Idris Elba at the time, and I was his wife. I am a witness that Idris Elba was Noah. And again, Satan had named many of his host names as names of the righteous. Again, as I mentioned before, so that if you mention the righteous name, Satan and his hosts show up and try to overtake our vessels, our home, and our possessions. And I'll have scripture proof to go over that in the book of Enoch, in the book of Asher, the book of Jubilees, and in the King James Version Bible. You hear it over and over. And again, Mighty God Ahaya had mentioned that if you're not going by the King James Version Bible, because King James was his brother whom he had taught the entire word to, any other version besides the King James Version Bible or legion and religion of devils. And Mighty God Ahaya went over about Rome and the little, he mentioned about the 10 horns, and I don't want to get too far off, but that was Rome, the Catholic, the whore, he called the whore in scarlet and purple, which are the Roman Jesuits, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes. Those are the ones that had the ability and the authorization to write the word, but he made it in vain. And now Mighty God Ahaya has written his laws in our mind and in our heart, those elect and chosen ones, the 144,000, whom he sealed to be his peculiar treasure, his priesthood. Not everybody is his priesthood, and not everyone are his inheritance. So let's get into the theme now. I don't want to get too far off topic. Okay, let's get into the example. For example, Noah had 3 sons, Japheth, Shem, and Ham. 2 of those sons, Japheth and Ham, and their descendants were wicked. But Shem, the chosen righteous, was the covenant and promise made with. Same with Abraham with his wives, but in reverse. Abraham had 3 wives, Sarah, Hagar, and Keturah. Hagar and Keturah were wicked with their children, but the promise and covenant was with Isaac and not Ishmael. And again, the covenant was made with Jacob, Israel, and not Esau. Mighty God Ahaya hate Esau, again, because Esau is the seed of Satan. And Satan raped Eve, which resulted in white people. Satan, Lucifer, who was a white cherub, who is Donald Trump, transformed. He's transforming and shape-shifting in many vessels. Donald Trump is also Sabrina Dowry, who is Sebastian the albino, changed his sex. And like I said, he's jumping in and out of many vessels. There are many clones. These people had made clones, imposters, and it's just a whole lot of nasty stuff that's going on. A lot of robots, robocops. Like I said before, you cannot make a movie if it had not happened before. And a lot of these movies and things are made where the enemy that chipped implanted Judah and Israel, and we're stealing our ideals and our dreams and our memories. Okay, so now let's get into the scriptures that goes over Abraham and Noah's sons, how history is repeating itself, starting with Galatians 1:7-9, that says, "There be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of the MessiYah YashaYah, who is actually I am that I am in the flesh. But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. And we say before, so say I now again, if any man preached any other gospel unto you than that you have received, let him be accursed." Galatians 4:22-26 in the King James Version Bible says, "For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, the one by a bondmaid and the other by a free woman." I'm going to pause there for a second. In the King James Version Bible, it states that that Abraham had 2 sons. Abraham had 3 wives, but Abraham had many sons. As you have read, Mighty God Ahaya told Abraham that he would multiply his seed as the sand of the seashore. So even though Galatians 4:22 says that he had 2 sons, it was an example, an allegory, so that you can understand that one son was for the promise, but the other was to be in bond a slave and was not supposed to be. but because it happened anyway, mighty God Ahia still blessed Abraham, Ishmael, but he was not of the promise. So let's get into verse 23 of Galatians 22 that says, "But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by the promise. Which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants, the one from the Mount Sinai, which gendered to bondage, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, an answer to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, who is Israel, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all." And Jerusalem represents Sarah, and Sarah was actually Eve. I was Sarah, Manette Michelle Davis Jackson. I was Eve, the mother of all living. I am Eve, the mother of all living. I also was Sarah, Rebecca, Esther. I'm still thinking. I've been many people, many of the women that mighty God Ahia mentioned in this Bible, but right now I don't want to get too far off topic, so I'm keeping it in line with topic so that you know that I am Eve, the mother of all living, and I also was Sarah, and also Rebecca when I was pregnant with Jacob and Esau, and that was a repeat from heaven when I was pregnant with Son, S-O-N, who was Idris Elba, and S-U-N, who was actually Sabrina Dowry, who was Sebastian, that Idris Elba is currently fakely married to. So in this dimension, Idris Elba is currently fakely married to his twin brother, who changed his sex just to have sex with his brother. That is some nasty shit. So let's keep on going. Abraham's third wife, mentioned in the book of Asher, chapter 25, that says, "And it was at the time that Abraham again took a wife in his old age after Sarah had died, and her name was Keturah, from the land of Canaan." And again, the land of Canaan was named Canaan after Ham had stolen the land of Lebanon, which then was called Canaan. So verse 2 of chapter 25 says, "And Keturah she bare unto him Zimran, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua, being 6 sons. And the children of Zimran were, Abihan, Molech, and Neram. And the sons of Jokshan were Sheba and Dedan." I'm going to pause there for a minute. Make note, the same names, Sheba and Dedan, are mentioned in Genesis chapter 10, verse 7 of the King James Version Bible, that says the sons of Cush were Sheba and Havilah and Bacta and Ramah. And it says that the sons of Ramah were Sheba and Dedan. So I just wanted to make note of that many of Satan's hosts also have the names of the righteous, just like your name today. If you go on Google, you bring up your name, you probably see a lot of demon and devils with your picture. I mean, you probably see a lot of demon and devils, ugly things with your name on it. And that's the example that I'm giving here. Satan named many of his hosts the names of the righteous. Let's continue on verse 3 of the book of Asher, chapter 25. It says, "And the sons of Medan were Amida, Joab, Gucci, Elisha, and Notak. And the sons of Midian were Epher, and Canak, and Abida, and Elda. And the sons of Ikbak were Mechro, and Baadu, and Tador. And the sons of Shua were Bildad, Memdad, and Munan, and Meban. All these are the families of the children of Keturah, the Canaanitish woman, which she bare unto Abraham the Hebrew." So let's get into 2 Timothy 3:16. That says again, "All scripture is given by inspiration of mighty God Ahia, I am that I am, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness." So I just wanted to point that out, that we're seeing and hearing some of the same names of the wicked and also the names of the righteous the wicked had taken on. And again, they're doing this name calling. If you call out the righteous name, those wicked demons and devils try to show up. And mighty God Ahia is correcting this and rebuking and plucking out these evil people out of the earth. Jeremiah 8:8 says, "How do you say we are wise, and the law of Ahia mighty God is with us? Lo, certainly in vain made he it, the pen of the scribes is in vain." And again, the books that are written or old data. Mighty God Ahia, I am that I am, is living now. And he is the word. He knows how to manipulate his word to get his people to understand what he is talking about. And the enemy, Satan, he knew Ahia's word, but he twisted some here and there just to throw many of his people off. But mighty God Ahia preserved him, his peculiar treasure, his 144,000 that he sealed and taught, who is under the new covenant with his laws written in our minds and heart. And as I mentioned before, mighty God Ahia is blessing his peculiar treasure, his lawgiver, who is Judah and Levi. And he's blessing us when we find these errors and we internally correct them. He's blessing us. So let's get into the book of Enoch again, 104, 9 through 12, that says, "Do not be impious in your hearts, and do not lie, and do not alter the words of truth, nor say that the words of the Holy and Great One, Ahia, I am that I am, are lies. And do not praise your idols, for all your lies and all your impiety lead not into righteousness, but into great sin. And now I know this mystery, that many sinners will alter and distort the words of truth, and speak evil words and lie, and concord great fabrications and write books in their own words." Let's stop right there. Again, the NIV, the ESD, and in all those other denomination, religion and legion of devils. If it's not the KJV, the King James Version Bible, those are the wicked sinners that wrote the books in their own words, in their own languages. But mighty God Ahia word didn't need translation, didn't need altering. All they needed, mighty God Ahia had translators to translate the King James Version Bible to all the languages that were available. Again, his word says in 104:11, "But when they write my words exactly in their languages, and do not alter or omit anything from my words, but write everything exactly, everything that I testify about before, then I know another mystery. The books will be given to the righteous and wise, and will be a source of joy and truth and much wisdom." Mighty God Ahia says, "All liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death," as mentioned in Revelations 21:8. Now, I don't want to get too far off topic, but I'm just going to say, mighty God Ahia put enmity, which is hatred, between Satan's seed and Eve's seed, as mentioned in the book of Genesis 3:14 and 3:15. If mighty God Ahia put hatred between Esau, Satan's seed, Esau, the white man, and Jacob, Israel, the black man, how can we love our enemies? How the hell can you love someone that hate you and beat you? I'm just saying. Okay, let's finish on. Revelations 22:19, it says, "And if any man shall take any from the words of the book of this prophecy, Ahia, mighty God, I am that I am, shall take away his part out of the book of life, and out of the holy city, and from the things which are written in this book." So I briefly wanted to just go over how history is repeating. Even though we may be different people, we are experiencing the same things, different, the same allegory, but different people is what I'm saying. History is repeating itself, trickling down all the way into the bottomless pit where Satan and his hosts are returning. So again, I want to thank you for listening. Shalom and be blessed.